How you doing, everyone? Welcome back. As you can see, it's a beautiful day outside, but there's a reason I am inside recording this video, and that's because I'm going to do something that I don't think I've ever done before on this channel, and I'm going to read to you from an article in The Guardian. Now, let me give you basically the premise before I start reading it. Let me give you the headline. Extremely disturbing and unethical new rules allow VA doctors to refuse to treat Democrats and unmarried veterans. Just that headline alone is pretty disturbing, is it not? All right. So let's now. I'm not going to read this whole article to you, but I am going to read parts of it because it's disturbing. I'm neither Republican nor Democrat. I used to be a Republican. I'm disabled through the VA, and up until 6 years ago, I was unmarried while receiving treatment through the VA. So, this very well could have or still could impact me, right? And forget about me personally. Let's forget about me. What does this do for anyone else who has ever put their lives on the line for this country? Doctors at the Department of Veterans Affairs hospitals nationwide could refuse to treat unmarried veterans and Democrats under new hospital guidelines imposed following an executive order by Donald Trump. The new rules, obtained by The Guardian, also apply to psychologists, dentists, and a host of other occupations. They have already gone into effect in at least some VA medical centers. Nice, yeah. Medical staff are still required to treat veterans regardless of race, color, religion, and sex, and all veterans remain entitled to treatment. But individual workers are now free to decline to care for patients based on personal characteristics not explicitly prohibited by law. So basically, your VA provider could choose not to treat you based on, they just don't like your politics, right? Language requiring healthcare professionals to care for veterans regardless of their politics and marital status has been explicitly eliminated, right? So the fact that, this stuff was very, very explicitly in the guidelines for VA care, it is now explicitly not, and it was deliberately removed. Doctors and other medical staff can also be barred from working at VA hospitals based on their marital status, political party affiliation, or union activity, documents reviewed by The Guardian show. The changes also affect chiropractors, certified nurse practitioners, optometrists, podiatrists, licensed clinical social workers, and speech therapists. Great. So, we want, qualified people based on merit, right? We want a meritocracy according to this regime. And yet, we are now able to exclude people for political views, exclude providers, care providers, based on political views or their marital status. So much for, we want the best and that's it, right? In making changes, VA officials cite the President's 30th of January executive order titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. The primary purpose of the executive order was to strip most government protections from transgender people. The VA has since ceased providing most gender-affirming care and forbidden a long list of words, including gender-affirming and transgender, from clinical settings. Yeah, so great thing, huh? Great thing that's happening here. I mean, the Department of Veterans Affairs is the nation's largest integrated hospital system with more than 170 hospitals and more than 1,000 clinics. It employs 26,000 doctors and serves 9 million patients annually. Of those 9 million, how many do you think are Democrats? How many do you think are not Republicans? How many do you think are not married? I know some. I know some who are independent, not married, even Democrats, you know. This is fantastic, isn't it? So, in an emailed response to questions, the VA press secretary, excuse me if I get this name wrong, Peter Kasparowicz, did not dispute that the new rules allowed doctors to refuse to treat patients based on their beliefs, or that physicians could be dismissed based on their marital status or political affiliation, but said all eligible veterans will always be welcome at VA and will always receive the benefits and services they've earned under the law. I don't understand how he can actually say that, because he says on one hand, yes, this discrimination is allowed, but then on the other hand, yeah, all right, it's allowed, but nobody in the VA is going to do it. Right. Sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens. He said the rule changes were nothing more than a formality, but confirmed that they were made to comply with Trump's executive order. Kasparowicz also said the revisions were necessary to ensure VA policy comports with federal law. He did not say which federal law or laws required these changes. And then Dr. Arthur Kaplan of New York University's Grossman School of Medicine. This is a quote from him. Those views aren't relevant to caring for patients, so why should we put anyone at risk of losing care that way? Good question. Good question. Answer that for me. Answer that for me, huh? So, like I said, I'm not going to read that whole thing. That article goes on. If you want to read all of it, you can look it up. It's in The Guardian. But yeah, that's the most pertinent part. So, now that I gave you the news, and by the way, I've heard this from other sources than The Guardian. That's just the only... the other sources that I've heard have been audio from, like, I've heard it on the radio. I have not seen it yet on some of the YouTube channels that I watch, but I also haven't watched any of those videos today. So, yeah. Oh, also, the article also goes on to say that national origin is not protected. National origin. Now, so, you know, I served with a couple of guys who were from Africa, right? One was from, I want to say, Kenya. I'm blanking on where the other one was from, but it was another African country. Served honorably. I mean, they came to this country for a better life. They served in our military as a means to expedite their citizenship, as do, by the way, people from Latin American countries. Of course, that's who we're really trying to exclude, isn't it? Or anybody who doesn't look like me, right? If you're not a white male, if you're not a white heterosexual married male, those are the only veterans that matter, aren't they? Oh, and if you agree with the regime, go ahead, take my benefits. Do it. I dare you. Do it. See how fast you get sued into oblivion, and not just me, because there'll be a class action suit. It'll be a class action. And then see how many billions of dollars you'll have to pay out to your victims. But this goes back to, something that I've said for years, right? And I am sick and tired of politicians who say, thank you for your service, when, and excuse the language on this, what they really mean is fuck you for your service. That's what they really mean. I mean, years ago when the VA had problems with, veterans actually committing suicide in the parking lot for, outside of the VA hospital or clinic because they couldn't be seen. Yeah, that's what they meant back then too. That's what they mean now. It's what they meant then. The PACT Act to treat those who are exposed to burn pits. Do you realize some of the things that we burned in those pits? Yeah. Lithium batteries, many toxic things. And, we inhaled it. So, don't tell me thank you for your service when what you really mean is fuck you for your service. And shouldn't expect anything less from a guy who called us suckers, losers. What's in it for them? Referred to John McCain as not a hero. And then, well, he was a hero because he got captured. I like people who weren't captured. Yeah, well, I like people who didn't dodge the draft and then pretend to be big-ass tough guys afterward. I mean, if you dodge the draft, that's one thing. I can understand. That. But then don't pretend to be some fucking badass. Don't pretend to be a badass afterwards. You know what? Yeah, I'm a bit angry about this, and you should be too. Because I guarantee if you're not a veteran yourself, you know one. And if you know one, they're probably getting treatment through the VA. And if they're getting treatment through the VA, there's a good possibility that they're getting screwed over. And you know what? I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll catch you next time.